Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, everybody. Welcome in. You're listening to the Alchemy Annex live here on Blog Talk Radio, YouTube, or wherever the heck you're watching us from right now. I'm Ernesto. I'm your host. I'll be with you here for the next hour or so. And we have Viretta on the line, as always, who's going to be joining us here. And we have a terrific show planned for you guys today. We're going to be talking about Be Here Now. We've talked a lot about mindfulness in the past, and these are all sorts of pillars that make sense, that maybe hopefully you're starting to work out some of those ideas in your own personal life. But now we're taking it to the next step. We're not just taking it to being mindful. We're asking you to be present. And guess what? We are in a season full of presents right now, known as the holidays. And during that period, a lot of us get very nervous about things that we just don't have control of. Perhaps it's maybe family members that we haven't seen in a long time that we don't really get along with, or maybe it's that our personal finances are not looking as great as what we would like. Whatever the issue, there is some big bear in the room that we're all afraid of, and we just keep dancing around it. But our greatest defense in this entire process is to literally be here now. Just be here with me right now in this moment. Let's not focus on the past or even on what's happening in the future, although those are definitely things that we can talk about. But your best bet at beating out all of that emotional distress is by living in the present. Take one day at a time. That's the topic of our show for today. So that's what we're going to be doing here with you for about the next hour or so. And I also wanted to let you know that we are having some policy changes here on the show in terms of how we're keeping up with our free readings with everybody. So in an effort to sort of keep a cap on the flow of free information, and also just to really sort of protect ourselves more than anything else, Viretta and I have to be mindful of how much of ourselves we're giving to other people. So in doing that, we've sort of discovered a pattern that happens a lot on this program, that it's sort of the same sets of people who call back and forth every single week and keep asking, one question after another, because they figure, oh, great, like I don't mind having all of my stuff air out on the internet, so I don't have to, pay these people because they're offering it for free. Well, you know what? That only works as far as you can throw it. And I've gone through some things through the counseling process that have really sort of revealed to me, you really do get so much more out of something like counseling, or let's say something like metaphysical ministry, which is what we're doing here. We gain so much more from it when we do it on an every other week basis. Like if I have to miss a week because I have some other medical appointment or some other BS that happened in my life, well, then that means I have so much to report the following week. Sometimes it's kind of like pulling teeth, where I'm just talking about the same issue over and over again, and it just gets boring. So my best advice to everybody is go out there and live your life. So we have a new show policy that today we will be wiping a clean slate. And after we chat with you, then we'll chat with you again, definitely, but in another 2 weeks. We want to give you some time to go out and live life, because it really does make a difference. Of course, though, we don't want to shut anybody out in the cold just because there are people who are from all walks of life who may really need some help and guidance right now. So if that's you, then be sure to write to us at opencs.ciradio@gmail.com. That is our customer service email address where you can get a hold of us. Just get a hold of us over there and kind of let us know what's going on, that you're going through something and that you would like to catch up with us on a little bit more frequent basis just because of what's going on. And we can definitely work something out for you. Now, the other flip side to that coin is the fact that because we are going to start operating on an every other week basis with you guys and how we visit with you, if you're really going through something and you have to know the answer right now, then please buy a front of the line pass, $10 for a one-time thing, or you can buy 3 for $25. They never, ever expire, and our marvelous accountant will take care of all of the heavy lifting and the remembering for you, so you don't have to worry about that. What's really nice about the front of the line pass in this particular situation is that you can use this to talk to us whenever the heck you want, that you don't have to wait in between weeks or waiting for a free reading show on the new moon kind of thing. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff because we're right here for you. And if you're having some issues and that fee is sort of an issue for you, then please write to our customer care department and we will get you taken care of. So, Viretta, what is it that we need to know for this coming week? This is like the first full week of December that we're finishing up here. What's coming up for us in the week ahead?
Well, it feels to me like there's going to be a little bit of rub. I think most definitely that has to do with Mercury going into retrograde. But I feel also like there was a rub already that was beginning to enforce the way people. It's like I don't know even how to describe it. It's like putting you in a file so that you could be in a chute so you can be processed, and down the roller thingies you go. And every once in a while it would split in two, but they'd always come back together. So this is going to be the week that you have to decide, am I going to die on this hill, or do I just want to really let that stuff go, because it honestly just doesn't matter. And if you want to not deal with the answer, that's fine. Just know this one isn't going to escape you. It's going to haunt you until you make that decision, or at least understand why you should have. So it might get a little sticky, might get a little rub.
And I can definitely feel that, because, I don't necessarily mean like it's a hill that I'm going to die on per se, because I've just sort of resorted myself to let people drown on their own ignorance. It really is a lot easier. You don't have to course correct. Watching Rome burn is just as satisfying as trying to fix somebody's behavior before it's too late. But where I've more or less been is, so there are these things that I would like, whether if that's, a person or a scenario or a situation or even just something in retail that I would really just like for myself because I feel that I deserve it. I'm detaching more and more from those things. It's kind of like, none of that stuff really matters. Here's what does matter. What's in front of me right now. Let's focus on that, because all of these other things of speculation, they are not paying my bills. Like that mental spank bank energy, that may make me feel warm and fuzzy on the inside. But again, that's only as good as far as I can throw it. So all of those things for me in my life, I've just gotten into the process of detaching myself from saying, I don't think I'm going to explode if I don't get this new shiny toy that I have been chasing for so long and that I've really been saving my money for.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes you need a couple of experiences to be sure you've got that lesson under your hand, under point.
And just to let everybody know, we are coming into a Mercury retrograde. It's going to be a week from today. It'll be on the 13th. And one of the biggest things about this particular Mercury retrograde is it's happening in an earth sign. So we can, eliminate like the zodiac sign aspect of things, because that's not really terribly useful in what we do. The element of the retrograde itself is more useful to us. So what this means in particular is this next week when Mercury goes into retrograde, it'll be in an earth sign. So that just means everything that you do is not going to stick. Please rinse and repeat 3 or 4 times for best results. It really might take that many times to get something to actually stick and work out for you. I remember many years ago, there was a situation of somebody who went through 7 coffee pots in the course of a Mercury retrograde, because every single one that they bought just broke and they had to replace it. And it was this long and distressing situation of what is it going to take for me to just make some coffee here at home, because the machine would explode or something really crazy and awful would happen. And it just kept happening over and over again. Now, in a metaphysical sense, you could argue, well, maybe I'm just not meant to have this thing. Maybe I should just walk away and give up. But when Mercury retrograde is involved, then that's sort of like challenge accepted, where you're scaling that vertical wall. You have no idea how it's going to happen, and you cross your fingers for the best results. Even though all you're getting is resistance, you just have to stick with it, because that's how Mercury retrograde works. Or if you're really applying your knowledge about how Mercury retrograde works, if all you're doing is getting that uphill wall and nothing is going forward for you, then think outside of the box and figure out some other methods of how you can get the same things that you want, but just perhaps not with the easiest game plan available. So instead of a coffee pot, maybe you buy an espresso machine and you have good luck with that and you end up liking it. This is how we can use Mercury to our advantage, is by thinking outside of the box for when we hit these roadblocks, how is it that I can get the things that I want out of life? So that's going to be a new thing that's going to be coming up for us in the next week or so. Again, that's going to be on the 13th once that planet stations retrograde. A lot of us should start to at least be seeing the writing on the walls that something is not right now. I don't know why, but everything is just a mess. Everything is on fire, and I just have to deal with it. Well, if you're starting to see the preview of what that narrative is going to look like right now, then please get on top of your damage control, because it really does make a difference once the transit hits you next week. And also because next Tuesday, the 12th, is going to be our new moon. We're going to be doing our free reading show for the new moon on the 12th. So the 13th, which is our normal time slot, that show will be canceled, and we will be moving to Tuesday next week just for that new moon show from 7 to 8 p.m. where we'll be doing free readings for everybody in that format of show.
Cool.
So, Viretta, what is it that, I'm just curious, before we move on to our discussion for the day, in a metaphysical sense, when all you're doing is getting the uphill vertical wall and it's something like a Mercury retrograde, are we really supposed to walk away from that thing that we want, or do we have to work outside of the box?
You know, you need to look outside of the box, because it may very well be that you put the wall up for your own self-preservation, and you don't, now that it's up, you don't know how to pull it down. And you'll know by the end result of what you keep wanting to see, whether they are two the same thing, whether or not you should keep doing what you're doing. And if you don't see sparks and stars and whatever's at some point in the very initial beginning of whatever it is you're doing, now's not the time to do it. It just isn't, because it'll roll over and kick you in the butt, and it isn't worth trying to go up a vertical hill for. Now, if there is another individual involved with this, if there are things, you know, say, a person just can't understand why nothing ever changes in their life. They can't understand why they can't get the job. They can't have this. They can't have that. They can't have something else. Then that wall is not going to let them be seeing anytime soon anywhere past their specific situation, because they have to learn on their own. So that wall represents something individual for each person, but the reality of it is, if it's going straight up, you're not meant to go on the other side right this second. Go do what you want to do for a little while, break the cycle that you've created, and then go look at the wall and see if there aren't maybe some ways around that you had not seen before. That because you were just kept looking up at how tall the wall was, you didn't see that if you walked 50 feet the other direction, you could just go around it. So that wall's there for a reason.
It really is. And remember that sometimes that we just put up psychosomatic walls because that's just our conscious mind's way of saying, you can't have this right now. This is bad for you. Go away. And, the conscious mind loves to sabotage us, to take us off of that track of what we think we need to have, what's really important. But it really isn't. Focus on the other things, like living in the present, because that in and of itself is a gift. And I have been working with that this past week, because my mind is always at least 3 steps into the future at any given time. And what I have really been working on is none of that stuff is tangible. It's kind of like, I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing. We can apply that to literally anything in American politics or the management of the world. I'll believe it when I see it. And so rather than me always being so hyper-focused on all of these other possibilities and minutia that just don't really apply to me, that maybe if I put the work in, it would work out, I really don't feel like doing that. I have too much on my plate already, and what I need to do is just be here now. So then what we have to ask ourselves is, what does it mean to live in the present from a spiritual perspective?
Well, from a spiritual or metaphysical one, let's even say, take it to that realm it actually belongs in, living in the present, being in the moment, living in the now. There's so many ways to interpret how to say that. It's what you have to do to let go of all the blockages, all the chattering, all the distractions, and be still in the moment with your thoughts and your heart and your breathing all in one, and be very, very selective about how you receive information at this point. That's what it's going to take to get you past any dogma that you've already had go on, is learning how that it will work. It just is maybe not your time frame, and you're going to have to be patient about that.
How does being present, how does that differ from like mindfulness, let's say?
Well, so being present means you really are in a moment of seeing all. You're tapped into spirit, and you're able to look at things in the manner that it needs to be seen in the present, and you move on, you move forward from that, what you see in the present. But you've got to know that you're in the present. So being mindful of something is, you carry on, you're mindful of maybe something happening, or you're mindful of, trying to mitigate issues or things. That's what being mindful is all about. But when you're in the present, when you're in the moment, you know all of this information because you're tapped into the all. And when you're in the now, you can see it. You can feel it. You can know the tempo of whatever it is you're going through right there, because you're not attached in a physical, emotional, mental level whatsoever at all. You're just being in the moment. Did things come to you, which is usually when it does, then you can decide how to handle that, if at all. But being now-oriented doesn't mean that you know everything and you know all that everything's doing. No, that's not what I said.
It's kind of like I've had this experience recently where I'm sitting in my chair and I'm doing literally anything. I could be writing email. I could be working on show things. I could be playing a video game even. And I'm sitting there and all I'm doing is just focusing on that exact moment of whatever the heck is in front of me. My mind is not wandering whatsoever. I'm just focused on the present. And you know what starts to happen? Like I become hyper aware of my breath. And then in doing so, that it's kind of like you almost feel a little bit stoned, and you're not really doing anything. It's truly just breath is all it is. And it's kind of like, wow, this is really super duper relaxing. And I feel like that not only can I just conquer the world right now, but I can also summon whatever it is that I want to me through my mind. And it's just kind of like all of those lines and those wires just click and they make sense. It's something that you can't really achieve. I mean, I'm sure it's like a byproduct of meditation or something along those lines. It's certainly very achievable on its own. But what I have found is that the easiest way to just go right there is just turn off all of the excess stimuli and chatter that's happening in my environment. Just focus on that one thing, and in doing so, what unlocks in my conscious mind is really quite interesting and things that I've never really thought of before. So how does, in a fast-paced world, how can we develop and maintain this type of mindfulness with our daily lives, especially when we're faced with challenges and distractions?
Yeah, and so sometimes we can't be present. We're so, there are reasons that we become hypersensitive to the time frame and the other people and what's going on around. So where being in the moment is concerned, it doesn't mean, again, that you're going to know all, see all, but what it's going to allow you to do is accept it, whatever it is, because you're feeling like it's okay. You're trusting in that moment. And that's what you should be doing. You should feel your way through these type of things. And you're not going to be in a position of feeling the same way every time you go through something. So sometimes your psyche is going to shut you down, and it's going to kick you into the future. It's kicking you back into the past, or it's anywhere but in this time frame. Because, there are a lot of energies that when you're looking out there to see what you can bring forward or bring here, that can have a lot of clingy energies. It's not conducive to the best interests of your spiritual and metaphysical health, because things cling on to things like that. So you have to be careful about bringing it to you ever. Now, when you're in that moment of being in the now, then you're very well aware that you're manifesting, or you could be manifesting, anything you want to in that moment. That's one of the benefits of being in the now, is because you know what you're working with, or at least you get a jive for the feeling of the energy that you touch, and that tells you where you want to take it. The alchemy moment of putting things together and making that happen. Fun, but it doesn't always prove a point, and you can be abusive with that. So it's when you're in the now and you're busy, then things just flow. But if you start getting stuck, you can't figure out what the heck's going on, you're scattered 14 different directions to the wind, the quickest manner for you to pull yourself present and ground yourself is to literally think at the bottom of your feet until you can feel them, and then envision, and also, again, then start to feel the energy coming up through the bottom of your feet. You're right there in that moment. You're in the now, and you're grounded. You just created the stable foundation for yourself. That's one of the reasons you want to be present.
I have to chime in here for a moment and just let everybody know. I stepped out for just a quick second here on the line because I had to sneeze. And guess what you do when you sneeze? That's the truth. So we just heard it right there. I love that.
Yeah.
I should add a sneeze sound effect
when
to our
you sneeze,
switchboard.
that definitely is going to bring you here, right? That's got your attention 100% right here.
Yeah, for sure.
And
so
it is with all the distractions. That is exactly how you do. So when I shift my awareness so that I can channel, it is exactly just that. I'm shifting my awareness into the now, looking to see who's around me, being available to what I trust. And so it's an exercise that if you get in the habit of doing, when you need information from Spirit, you don't need to go through this whole rigmarole of lighting incense and candles and screaming Om for 20 hours trying to get what you want. You just recreate the energy that feels in the now, and that gives you all the information that's right there available for you.
And you can apply like divination tools such as cards or astrology or literally anything that you like to try to get more information. But you know what? I'll share this with you. And I'm an extremely logically minded person. So it's kind of like if the common logic behind it doesn't follow, then I'm probably running the other way. Or if it doesn't provide, like consistent results each and every single time, then there's not a whole lot of interest that I have. But when it comes to like being in the moment, like with these moments where I just kind of stare at my chart blankly as if it's like a crystal ball or something like that. And then all of these thoughts just start entering my internal dialogue. And then it's kind of scary, like I'm actually able to prove that out in my chart and say, is that really what's happening here? And this is a frequent experience that I have here, even on the show, is that when I'm reading other people's charts, that I always get like these thoughts that are planted into my internal dialogue, like, hey, what about if you check on X, like let's say if somebody is calling about, moving, let's say, and then I'm doing the work about moving, but I'm also seeing some other things, but more than anything else, my intuition is just sort of dominating and telling me like, you should really check to see if this person is going to have a roof over their head, if that has to do with the move situation at all. And then what ends up happening is the fact that checks out. Like I can totally see that there. And so this is one of the reasons this is one of the things that makes me different than other astrologers, is the fact that I can tap into that energy. And it's just sort of like these thoughts just come over me and consume me. And then it's like, have you thought about X, Y, or Z? And then I can prove that all out in the chart, which is really amazing. And it just gives a level of understanding that I never had before. So that's one of the differences between me and my competitors.
You're right. And it's just so amazing to me that, any format that we have, when you're looking to see what's going on, and I am giving someone information, you find it. You find it in the chart. You find it in wherever it needs to be, but it was validated through intuition, or it was prompted through intuition and validated through your ability at reading your charts. So, yes, you're very much different than anybody else.
So, and that's one of the things that I really love about being present is the fact that, like, these things open themselves up to you. Like Viretta, there have been many times over the years where I kind of think to myself, I really need a psychic reading right now. I really need somebody to just knock my socks off and just tell me what I need to know. And then, like, I start thinking about you, right, since we come from the same soul family. And it's just like it's really about all I have to do. And then all of the information that you would normally channel comes through me. So then I just tell myself, okay, so that's all I needed. You know, like, this is a tornado or this is a hurricane. I don't really need to know much more than that. So let's kind of stop fixating on this, you know, dream hooker fantasy island situation that I think that I'm getting, because that's very far from what I actually want in life.
Exactly.
So, and that's something that you know I really appreciate and enjoy, is the fact that, like, you know, you and I, we can just go there, and it's just like, tell us what we need to know right now. And, you know, most of the time they're going to tell us what we need to know, but it's going to be like in a Frankenstein kind of way. Like, it gets bigger and bigger, and we just can't stop it. And it's just like, hey, you know, 6 hours have passed. I have some other things I need to do, but they don't care. They're just going to they're going to show you what they need to show you.
Most definitely.
So let me take a look at some things here. Can you explore the connection between living in the present and finding purpose or meaning in life?
Well, living in the moment, if you're living in the moment, then the manifesto would be, all you got to do is bring your energy up and align yourself with whatever it is that you're wanting, and you'll pull you to it. It'll come to you individually. One of the things that you also have to remember is when you're living in a mindful situation, you're not going to a third source to ask questions to. You're hooked up to your own somebody, and that's where you're going to be able to get your valid information from. There'll be times when you'll be wondering, you know, really what it is that you're being told, and have to validate it through some other manner. But you're always going to know that if you're needing or seeking validation, all you got to do is go to Spirit, and that's so much quicker and so much easier than. And what by that I mean, when you think of Spirit, you open a channel for them to communicate to you without you leading the conversation. You need to let the conversation, whatever that vocabulary is that needs to find you, be planted without you sprouting a seed, trying to make it happen on your own. These are the things you want to be aware of, is that being mindful doesn't necessarily mean you're walking in the saint category, because there's a lot of people that are mindful. They're going to be able to read you and me and anybody else that they think they can to get advantage of or take advantage of. So being mindful just allows you to see more of the fine-tuned details. And you don't have to be a nice person to do that. So what you have to do then is incorporate your in-tune abilities, whatever that would be. Mine would be empath. That would show me that I don't want to trust that individual, because my radar goes off occasionally, and sometimes I let it go by. But if my radar goes off and then red signs and flags and come at me, then I got to go to another place of being mindful for my safety in the future. So, but like I said before, the quickest way to do it is to ground yourself and just open the slate to be clean so Spirit can write on it or talk through you or give you that information, however they may be it.
I used to do this all the time. Like I would go to the casino, right? And as soon as I would get there, I would be in the parking lot before I ever even walked in the doors. And then I would usually do something like I would do like a prayer of invocation or something like that, which would start out something to the effect of like, God, please use me as an instrument of your work, that kind of thing. And then, what would happen is, I would just walk into the casino, do whatever the heck it was that I was going to do, but I just let my intuition run the show. It's like I had no thoughts or desires of my own. It's just like, oh, that machine's lighting up to me. I really feel connected to that right now. Let me do this. And then I sit there and then I realize, I'm not feeling this anymore. I don't know what I thought this was about. Maybe it was shiny and new, but kind of went away. So let me do something else.
Yeah.
And you know what would happen? I would at least break even. I never want anything to write home about, like anything significant.
Yeah.
But I could go out for several hours at a time and I would enjoy myself because I was doing everything based off of intuition.
And isn't that what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to enjoy yourself. And when you're looking at it like, okay, this is a form of entertainment. I'm just going to go out and enjoy myself like I would anything else that I would have to put money into. Only this is the kind I want to experience right now. When you're not goal-focused on making, the mint because you have to, and you're just enjoying things and letting things come to you, they will. I finally got to the point to where after I realized I could ask people that I knew in spirit to give me any kind of heads up on the slots, and because one or two would always come to me and they tell me where to go, and I would at least, like you, break even, sometimes a little bit more, but for me it was fun. I enjoyed it, so it was worth it to put that money in that direction.
See, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. Like there are many astrologers and psychics who are out there who are going to say, pay me X dollars, and I'm going to tell you when you're going to win. It's kind of like, no, that's not how it works. Gambling is entertainment. It is not a money-making machine. If it was, then that would just be a free ATM that everybody would be using. But, we're very far from something like that happening. And it really is amazing when you can just detach yourself from, oh, I really need to win, or I really can't lose this because I need this money right now. If you're just going out to have a good-ass time and that's all there is to it, you'll be surprised by what happens.
My son just recently won another, like, $20,000. And, of course, he's got to call me, and he's got to call his brother. But he's the kind of guy that can go in and sit there and sit down and play the slot until he feels like there's something going to happen. And he starts putting big money into it, and he gets paid back out, big money. Now, he can afford it, okay? He has a business on Pier 39 in San Francisco. So it's no sweat off his back to go drop a couple $100 just to enjoy it. And he does.
Yeah,
but he also wins, the brat.
There's the whole thing that, like, I love to watch casino marketing pages because, like, when they show pictures of their jackpot winners, that always tells you the types of slot machines that you should be playing. And then what's really hilarious is our local casinos here in Arizona, that they never, ever, ever show people who won on penny slots. It's always like people are spending, $25, $30 a pull. And then that's when they're winning $10,000 or what. And it's really nothing, significant for the input. But it's just funny to me that, like, that casino marketing, that they always, want you to come in to be a sucker to bet on the penny slots, but nobody ever actually wins them.
Right. And that's, once upon a time when I would need time off, Spirit would let me win on penny slots just so I would sit there a little longer and feed it back into this casino I was at.
Yeah, so I mean, the spirituality of gambling, that's like a whole separate show. It's actually basically a different program than even what we're doing here. I would love to teach a class sometime about this and how to follow your instincts. So, Viretta, getting back on track here, what various spiritual traditions or practices contribute to the cultivation of mindfulness? Like, so there's meditation, for example, right? That's like one form of mindfulness, but what else is there besides just meditation or breath work?
Well, there's also taking a vow of silence, and that introspect is, oh my gosh, you know, you get a lot of thinking done if you can't talk about it, you can't open your mouth and share anything. You know, that brings you quick validation of how strong you are, how dedicated, how strong you are. So then it's also, of course, in the meditation field, but not necessarily in a conscious manner, is trance channeling. That's, yeah, there's some big time connection that can be made with mindfulness through meditation, but also the practice of doing healing, like you said, breath work, just so many modalities where communication with spirit comes in, and that's one. When you're open to allowing spirit to come through you, utilize you, or talk, as you are the medium, there's a lot of validation right there for you on anything that you'd want to become. If you're being pushed in a direction and you're not quite sure what it is, but it seems like it's coming real easy to you, then that's what you want to do. You're going to evolve.
So, I mean, it's kind of, so there's meditation, there's breath work, there's taking a vow of silence. I mean, I'm sure you could even expand that to things like gong circles or, drum circles, those kinds of things. If those are other ways of doing it. Just remember, keep the aura spray at home. All of that new age stuff, that don't work. So that's not going to do a whole lot for you.
Right. But yes, and there's, and it's, when you are sitting in a gong circle, when you are receiving information or looking to receive information, you're opening up to whatever is going to go on. And it's better that you be open to it and less adverse to, no, I don't want it in that way. I want it in this way. Then just let it come. Then you're getting validation right away from whatever your mindful practice is bringing. So you maybe there's a practice where where you like light a candle and you say a prayer and you put something on an altar that signifies that you want extra blessing for it. These are all things that you can put into that practice of being mindful about what you're doing, who you are, what you're creating, what the energy is that will result from your action will become. And that's all about the mindfulness practice as well.
And remember that it really is all about the intent, that our intent is like 90% of the heavy lifting. And
exactly.
We seem to lose sight of this so much that we always think that I need money so that I can pay my bills. Nope, good luck, because that leads to that fallacy that we all fall into as human beings, that if I only had money, all of my problems would go away. No, your problems will go away when you fix your problems, not when you have more money.
And your money wouldn't stay if it came if you don't fix the problem ahead of time.
Right, because it's just going to happen again. It's very similar to that person who is like a living, walking hurricane, and everything that they do is to get attention because perhaps they look a certain way or they're known for doing a certain thing. And then when they actually need help and they're trying to reach out to people and everybody's willing to twist into a pretzel to help that person, they don't know how to receive it. All they know how to do is to be a living, walking hurricane. So they're going to create the exact same situation again. So what makes you think that this time is going to be any different? That's something that we really have to all challenge ourselves to believe is, how is this time going to be any different than what it was in the past based on the track record that I have seen already?
Right, and it is individual. It's absolutely an individual process. So that when you walk into the presence of one hurricane, that in the past maybe this XYZ would be appropriate to utilize. Doesn't mean it's going to be appropriate on every person that does the hurricane effort. Some of those people you just kind of really want to hide from because they throw that stuff out like a hurricane, specifically to see what brings it back, what comes back with it, like a radar.
the worst part is the fact that they are so good at what they do, and that we are usually like so desperate or so sad or so whatever that we fall for it and we go back every single time, which is why that programming exists, is to try to, reel us back in. And it's almost as if the universe is giving you a test, like, are you going to do the same thing again? Because if so, then we're going to give you this path. But if you change your actions, then we're going to put you on this other path here.
Yep. That's exactly right.
And that's as somebody who studies metaphysics, especially through astrology and other things, this is something I am always super focused on, is how am I behaving in any given moment? Like in what repercussions in the greater scheme of things is this going to have, positive or negative? And it's not always, bad or gloom and doom. It's just very simply like, I'm being shown the same sets of lessons here again. It's just a different coat of paint. Now, what am I going to do about it? Because that's going to determine what happens again in the future, because those same issues in other areas of my life are going to pop their ugly head. And how I behave myself now through my own actions, that's going to determine what I get. That's literally the definition of alchemy, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Alchemy and karma.
Yeah, and that's why we're here, is because like we want to share our gift to the world, that like you can choose. The world is not scary. It truly is up to you, regardless of all of the crazy hokey stuff that you've heard in mainstream society. You are the person at the end of the day who has the power to make all of the things happen that you want to happen, or to make the things go away that you want to go away.
Yeah, choice. And, if people, again, they want to get to that point where just tell me what to do. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to have to make a decision. I don't want to have to be responsible about the repercussion of my actions. So I don't want you to tell me who I am or what I'm doing wrong. Just let me stay in my little oblivion bubble, and we'll all be good. We'll all be fine.
And then, and sometimes, like, some people are just very simply just trying to get by with a very little bit that they know how, like perhaps in, I've met these people, like you're dealing with like some type of functional alcoholism or functional addiction in some regard. And it's like you're running a race with a broken leg. There ain't a whole lot you can do about it, but you have to feed this part of you, or else it's going to spiral out of control and become a problem. It's very similar to how I play cell phone games that come from Japan, where people will basically gamble for real money to win whatever it is that they're trying to show you on these featured slot machines, in essence. And I can use my in-game currency, sure, or I can pay for it too. It's totally up to me. If I did not have the constant of the feeling like I lost all of my money at the casino because I burnt all of my in-game currency and didn't get what I want, if that was not a regular thing in my life, that would translate to doing the real thing, like putting money on a table and hoping for the best. And then I end up with like a very ugly addiction that I can't get rid of. So that's so for me, I know that like that thrill of winning is something that I really enjoy. So it's much easier and safer for me to place that in like a digital realm and like a cell phone game than what it would ever be to do it in real life at an actual casino where I could ruin lives.
Yeah.
And knowing this about yourself.
Again, that's the pro and con.
Knowing this about yourself, that self-awareness, like this is just the way it is. I don't like it. Like I don't like that I am this way, but it just is that way. There is no need to shame or to guilt trip or anything like that. It's just the way it is. Like that's why I'm here, to work on these things. I mean, I think we can all agree that that's the whole reason why we're here in this lifetime, is so that we can grow and so that we can learn.
Yep. And, for those that are going to create for others, then those are some pretty impressive people that you've got to learn from. So when you have that opportunity to learn from people that can tell you when you ask them what is being in the moment, what's the benefit of being mindful versus in the moment. These are all things that someone needs to have an answer to somewhere. And you just got to keep climbing on a train, and let it keep bringing you to the things that you have to practice. And like you said, Ernesto, If we don't get it, it's coming back. If we don't get it, we're not going to the next level. If we don't get it, it will be there for us to eventually get it. So we might as well just get it the first time and let it be right and move forward.
Now, when it comes to living on a day-to-day basis, just in our regular lives, you kind of addressed, how to be mindful how to be present when things are really chaotic and we're very busy and distracted with all of these other things. But how can we transcend the constraints of being fixated on the past or even the future and fully engage with the present?
The easiest way is to sit in the presence of somebody that also is going to do the same thing you're going to do by being fully present with each other and learning to feel the difference and know what's being taught to you about this individual. Nothing's being said. All of it's being delivered through energy and intuition, and that helps you understand what you can do for yourself instead of go to other people and look for. You won't be looking for help from anybody else. You'll go straight to your own top, and that's all you'll need for validation right there. You won't be running anymore.
So it sounds like that we just need to have other people who are like-minded. But what if we live in a region or a place where we don't have anybody like that? Then do we just snuggle up with spirit and hope for the best?
Yeah, and that's usually the way it works more often than not. And I say that unfortunately, and this is going to maybe create a little bit of icky feeling, but the fact is the children that are affected by the negativity are the ones that will learn first how to survive without anybody else's knowledge. So they only have spirit to go to. They only have spirit to help them, guide them, encourage them, cuddle them, and they learn to rely on that intuition. Now, if they're not around anybody that knows that person, like if you just say you grew up on a mountain, you never met anyone, you never talked to anybody about anything specific, but then you go to a region where someone's actually speaking your name with the definition of the words that you use, and you're realizing you can communicate with them because what they're describing is what you do. It's just not what you call it. So then you find out that, wow, this is really a thing. What I do is really a thing. And you want to learn how to master it. But the reality of it is until you find people to validate that what you do is real and you're not crazy because you don't have anybody to ask, and all you know is this is what life is like, and maybe you don't even know that other people don't go through these type of things. You take it for granted if you're doing something as a kid growing up. You're not assuming you're the only one doing it. You're assuming everybody else does it too, until at some point in the future it is pointed out, we're around 7th, 8th grade, is where we realize, oh yeah, not just because I do it doesn't mean it happens to everybody that way. And that's where you start to learn to grow outside of the bubble that you encased yourself in, and you assumed that everything you thought was real and everything that you said was right, so you didn't have to go anywhere else. And you got ran over time and time again. So it's then that you surrender ego, you surrender the need to know what's going on around you, and you just kind of flip it at spirit. Okay, if you need to tell me something, I'm here, and the rest of the time, like, get out of my space. Get out of my bubble. Let me just live life because I have a right to do that too, instead of constantly wait for somebody to push the Batman button because they need to be rescued. And that's the secret to being able to live in the moment, understand that there are things you'll have to do to prepare for the future, and there are things that may come back at you from the past that you didn't deal with right that time. You'll have more than ample opportunity to correct those things that you allow to come back to you, instead of harbor them like, I don't want to see that, I don't want to know that, just let's play like it doesn't exist. Spirit's going to remind you time again it's always going to be there for you. So whether you want to ignore it and get kicks in the butt, or you want to pay attention and do it the first time, again, it's your intuition that will lead you.
Your intuition will always. This is honestly a prayer that I begin my day with every single day. Dear God, please let my intuition lead me towards the next right action. Very simple.
That's right.
And
I love that.
It works miracles. It really does. And that's kind of how I lived my entire life. It was something that I dealt with a lot when I was in my 20s, was the fact that, like, I feel like I should do X right now. And then I wouldn't, because my logic mind would kick in. And then whatever it was that I was wanting to do X for didn't happen. And then I thought, oh, crap, I should have done that, huh? Or, you know, like I have the experience of gambling in my game, and I say, I want to do this right now. And then the very first thing that passes through my mind is, you're going to get something that you already have. You're just going to lose. Mm-hmm. And whether or not it's self-sabotage, I keep trying to shut it down, make it go away. These are unwanted thoughts. And guess what happens? I lose. I don't get what I wanted. I get something I already had that I paid for, no less. Yeah. So that makes it even worse. So it's just kind of like our intuition truly does know. And when we learn to listen to that and to trust that, a lot of us don't like to, just because of conditioning or because of the way that we were raised, that perhaps maybe that's not okay, or, you know, that's not acceptable. Like, that's not how, quote unquote, normal people behave. These are all things that or narratives that we've heard in the past, and breaking yourself free from that and realizing that the sky is blue. There really is much more to life, and I can figure that out on my own. That really can make a big difference here for everybody. So that's something that I have always done, is to just live in the moment, let my intuition lead me to where I need to go, and I am good. I am happy. I never regret it. It's like, your intuition doesn't take you someplace like you shouldn't be, like, you know, smoking a cigarette in a back alley when it's dark. You know, that's a bad idea anyway. Your intuition is not going to tell you to do that. Your intuition is going to tell you, if you want to smoke that cigarette, that's okay, but at least do it underneath the street light, you know, not in the back alley.
Yeah.
The freaky stuff.
Yep.
How can the integration of mindfulness and spirituality positively impact our mental health, stress reduction, and overall well-being?
Well, just meditation on its own is going to do a lot for what you just said. One of the reasons being, it does affect our brain to, depending upon how we can master lowering or elevating our energy, and can we manifest with that energy? Do we come to that place of understanding that we can manifest with that energy, and then why we would do that? And with spirituality kicking the way ahead, you've got to get to the point of realizing that everything happens for a reason. So Spirit's telling you something. Instead of say why, or okay, but I'm going to just do it this way a little bit, I'm not going to do it that way at all. I'm just going to do it my way. And those are the people that also don't understand why it doesn't work for them. They just don't understand why it is that they can't have what they want, or what the struggle with that is. So now, these are all things that you come here to learn. We have to have that kind of experience before we understand the knowledge of letting go of the things that we want to have happen versus that what should.
We are going to get off to our phone lines here for the last part of our show here and catch up with Patricia at area code 216. Now, just to let everybody know who's listening to our program that we are giving free general readings about where you are in the moment. That's kind of the now. That's, since that was the topic of our show. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And I do have Patricia on our line here at area code 216. Let me just pull up your chart, get that one going. Perfect. All right. And Viretta, what you got for Patricia here about where she is in the now?
Well, so at the minute I start to tune in, hi, by the way. Hi, Patricia. The minute I start to tune in to her, I get right away. One of the things I missed when you asked me about, like, you know, how do you become, what things do you do? Totally. And this is going to be for her, prayer. prayer is also one of the quickest ways to get in tune with the now, and that is opening yourself up to pray to whatever that energy is that you pray to, God, Allah, whatever it is. That allows you to understand. That allows you to understand more about where you're going than had you ask a specific question, try to solicit the answer you want. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when you're looking at being in the now, you get to a point to where it is superficial because you in 14 ways just brutally murdered someone in your mind, and you don't know, maybe that is an offensive kind of manner, and you're a woman of the light, you're a woman of God. You should never have a worry about your thinking because it's normal and a human compress to make someone else sometimes the butt of the situation or the bad guy. And it's okay that you do that. Someone needs you to hear it be said to you. It's okay to take certain steps to ensure success for you and what you want to create for yourself. So if somebody is out there giving you a world right now because you're not giving to them like that you used to, tell them to off because it's right now, from this moment on, it's your life, and you don't live it for them. It's your life.
All right.
So what I'm getting here about like the issues that are in the here and now, and by the way, just to clarify for everybody who's listening on our YouTube cast, that the definition of the here and now would be Pluto with Zeus. This was a discovery by Ruth Drummond, who compiled all of the research after World War II, and in doing so, she discovered that Pluto with Zeus, those two planets together, that those will always refer to the here and now. And Patricia, in your case, with just the way that your chart is clustered, specifically more because of the year that you were born in, you have Pluto with Zeus, and you also have it with Kronos, which is another trans-Neptunian planet that we use in Uranian astrology. So this means that your here and now is very frequently defined by higher ups, authorities, people who are they could be of higher status than you. These are like the decision maker kinds of people. These are the people that like you don't really connect with, that you're just more like a name on a list kind of thing. So that and you're having conversations with them because of this Mercury that's showing up on this pointer tail right here. So this is just in and of itself, this structure concerns you and where you are in life, that your here and now is very easily defined by higher ups and authorities, and that you're always having to deal with them. Now, in particular, where I think you are right now is that there is a connection with a man, that there is some male in the environment that's causing that's really kind of getting your attention. And I think where this speaks to is the fact that like this is giving you the motivation or the drive to do something with yourself. If that's like, I don't know, needlework or a side job or a part-time job or literally anything that you do with your time and energy, that this is going to be the connection that you need to really focus on, because they know something and they can point you in a direction that you've never really seen quite yet. Like that, I know you just went through that move recently and that was very big and everything, but it's still not quite shaping up to be a life. It's just, I moved for the sake, because I can, and like because of XYZ reasons, whatever they may be. It doesn't matter. It's like you still need to have that drive or that sort of, I guess, and that fulfillment out of your day-to-day life, and that this is going to be a time and a connection where you can definitely do that. I feel that like male energy is really going to be the most helpful to you in this whole process, that that those are the decision makers and the people who have the answers here. Viretta, maybe you can shed a little bit more light on sort of what I'm referring to with this, because it's kind of unclear to me in this sense, but I'm really picking up that there is another male that's coming in, and that This is not a relationship thing. This is more like a work kind of thing. Like this is somebody who you check in or report to because they have knowledge or information that you can benefit from.
And also, it's a habit. It's a habit that you're doing, whether it's a habit that you established with them originally or if it's a habit that you proxied over to them from doing it with someone else. It doesn't really matter the frame or the form that this gentleman comes in. It just feels to me like this is where you're going to be able to recognize the right thing that this individual should be doing based on whatever the situation at hand is. Now, I think that what that means for you or this individual is concerned is you are going to see something that reminds you of someone else, of a male. And it's going to be extremely powerful in the presence of how they remind you of this individual. And it's almost like you can't, I don't know, it's like you can't find the person or the kind of person that you want. But it's not like you're making them up. It's like you're waiting for that right person to come along that will allow you to be who you are and never be vulnerable to a male energy again. And so this is not having to do with relationship. This is stability in nature. This is where you work, where you live, where you enjoy going out. I'm not talking about going out clubbing. I'm just mean like coffee or a book or whatever, a movie, and you're not in a position to understand him, or whoever the him is. You're not in a position to understand him. So don't even try right now. Don't even try right now. Let that energy go. And when I say that, I totally see the window open, and you're like going, okay, bye-bye now. Blowing right out the window. Bye-bye now. So I don't know. I don't know if this is a euphemism, if this man is a literal man that you, like, send to the road and don't think about so much anymore. I don't get that, but it could be, I really get that this is going to be an experience that, you know, you're going to have had already, and you've got the answers. You don't need to go down this road. You don't need to continue down this road. You've got the answers. You've been down this road. So don't do it anymore.
Yeah, so Viretta, to your point about hobbies. So Patricia, I just want to let you know that this man, I absolutely 1,000,000% agree that this has to do with hobbies. And here's why, is because if you're watching our YouTube cast, you'll see that the definition book or rule book of Rules for Planetary Pictures is right here on Sun, Jupiter, and Venus, the man in love, physically feeling happy because of love. But here's the real kicker: success with hobbies and favored recreation activities, indulgences. So because you have those three planets as a definition, I thought, let me test it out on your chart to see what I get. Here on your chart, when we look at this here, it's not quite yet. It probably has about, like, I want to say 3 to 6 months to mature to where it needs to fully be. But that orange circle with that Venus in your second chart, and that's going to be what kicks off the triple midpoint of all of this energy. So you see, like, you have two orange squares, and the squares represent the Sun and the Jupiter. And then we also have, we want all three of those squares to be in their own midpoint. And we also want that third factor in the circles to be in their own midpoint as well. Again, that won't mature for probably about 3 to 6 months, right? So if, being here right now, being present in the moment, that's going to open up your mind to some new ideas about activities that you may like. For example, hey, I would really like to get into painting, or, I'd really like to get into needlework, or literally anything, whatever that thing is for you. It's just going to come to you, and it'll hit you like a sack of bricks. And when it does, it's going to take a life of its own. It's going to do a Frankenstein on you, where you're going to feel just totally consumed by it. And that's where this other male energy comes in. I want to say that they're like a mentor or a teacher along those lines, but you do profit from it. Like, this is something that you do make money from. And but again, that time frame isn't right now, but that's where you would really benefit from focusing your energies right now in the present, is getting some ideas about some hobbies that you want to go pro with, because that's going to be, I think, the next direction that you'll be taking. And that'll be early into 2024, definitely by the summer, though, that you'll have that answer.
Yes. What you both are saying is, there's no one presently talking about the male. Basically, I got out of Cleveland, Ohio, this past summer, and I started doing my house at home pet sitting, which is what I wanted to do. It's no pay, but it's but it's like you said, it's a way to gain a skill set, but also those who like to travel in the way to keep a roof over my head. Well, I don't have any house sits now, and I'm in a women's shelter, so I'm just going to stay here for the rest of the remaining year. But also, I'm just going to double down and apply to, remote jobs, on-site jobs, seasonal, and I have been doing that. Nothing is coming through. So I'm going to be focusing in on really the skill sets, the writing and the speaking, and really, now that I can, somewhat focus more, a bit better, without all of course, there's distractions here and the energy, but just, because my relocation here to New Mexico has been rocky. I was there in Las Cruces and understood that wasn't the place for me, and I'm up here in Albuquerque, and for more opportunity. And if I had to go on site, for a job, then I would open myself to that. My living here in New Mexico has been a bit rocky, but I'm going to remain here. And, of course, I'm focused. I've still got my attention spread out because I have to, create monies and for retirement, because I don't have that. And start, developing skill sets and really developing particular talents and gifts where I can use to, create assets, services to help groups of people who can pay me. And the man part I don't get because I'm not working now in this women's shelter. I mean, there are, men that work here and staff, so maybe that's something that's in the making.
So what I'm hearing you say, Patricia, is the fact that the living situation is a little bit tumultuous right now, for the lack of a better word. And I would love to dig into that with you, but let's do that next Tuesday on our New Moon show when we take questions of all sorts, so we can get into that. My whole thing that I'm really hearing you say, though, is that the overall condition of just sort of what's happening to you in life right now is distressing. And because it's kind of like you don't really know what's going to happen next. And obviously that's going to be distressing on its own. But the real takeaway here is what are you doing for yourself, for your own mental health, to escape from all of this just chaos and, tumult that's going on? Because, when you have all of that, it weighs on you after a certain point. And what I'm really, especially if we're looking at something like professional hobbies, you're going to come into something where you're just going to get pissy and say, this really sucks. I'm really bored, or I'm really exhausted with always having to, deal with this other thing. Let me take something new that I've never done before, and you find some TikTok or YouTube videos teaching you how to crochet, which is something you've never done before. I just feel like that's the real message here in the chart right now, is the fact that like you really just kind of need to look outside of yourself for a little bit, just for that own alleviation of everything that's going on, because it's really weighing on you. And the living issue we can address next week, so I'm not going to dig into that per se. But Viretta, I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted to add, but that's the real takeaway that I'm getting here.
I do need to add, Patricia, you have a grandmother coming in here. She's reminding you that bread only rises after it's kneaded. And put a rolling pin down, start laying some crust out, start doing some baking, and allow yourself to get a little bit known for that, because that is how you're going to bring in some money. Don't be doing any more dog walking for free. You need to collect everything Spirit is sending your way in the manner of monetary. So, with Grandma's discretion, she will be more than happy to share her recipes with you. But you've got to do the kneading on your own, she says. Now, Patricia, that right there was absolute validation that you can get what you need, not just what you can get what you want, let's just say, and it will suit you. So that hobby needs to be baking, straight up.
And the Great British Baking Show is one of the best programs that's out there. It'll do nothing but make you feel good about yourself.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you both for the messages, the encouragement, and the guidance.
Yeah, and we want to encourage you to come back to us next Tuesday. That's going to be our new moon show, where we're going to be doing just our free-for-all regular readings format that we haven't done in quite a while since we switched to the podcast.
All right. I will. Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right. Very good.
Bless you.
Same to you. Many blessings. Take care. And until next time. I just want to comment on that phone call real quick here, that for everybody who's kind of going through something right now, please pull yourself out of it. Like do something, garden, go for a walk, do literally anything. Like we seem to get so lost in everything that's happening in our personal lives that we forget that we have needs too, and it's okay to take care of them. That's something that really has taken a lot of time to sort of digest for many people. There's always the classic example of, my wife is upset with me because I always want to have sex with her. Well, it's not that you're a sex addict. It's the fact that you want your wife. She should be happy with that. You can go and take care of it in other places. And it's okay too, because you have needs, and that's a contractual need that needs to be taken care of, or else there are problems. So if you just feel like, this is too much for me, I need to do something with myself, remember that, like, even pencil and paper, learning how to draw, that's always free. I love the example of a photography teacher I once had who did a student internship with inner city kids, and they were all taught how to use manual cameras, how to develop film, and do all of this stuff. And then when the end of the program came and they took away all of that equipment, all the kids were crying. And it's like, why could you not have given them pencil and paper? Because that's almost free. Everybody can afford that. Even just doodling can take our mind off of things. That's another, it's not necessarily a form of mindfulness. It's kind of more of a form of burning steam. But there is something to be said for that when we step outside of ourselves to alleviate that pressure that we just can't hold up anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
I do want to thank all of our guests for being on the show today. And Viretta, as always, really a million thank yous for taking the time out with me in our crazy-ass busy lives so that we can come here and do this. It really does mean a lot. So we will be back with you guys all next Tuesday, the 12th, from 7 to 8 p.m. Arizona time for another 1-hour program. That will be our new moon show. So there will be a little bit of a call queue, I should hope, going on, because you're all going to have those burning questions about the end of the year and everything else that's happening in your personal lives. For all other things Uranian Astrology, be sure to check out my link tree, and you can find out Viretta at VirettaVision.com.
Enjoy it, folks. Enjoy your evening.
Have a great week, everybody. Until next time, good luck and Godspeed.